Shakyamuni Buddha. Before we get started on the Dharma talk, please join me in invoking the Buddha's name 3 times. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Dearest Venerable Teacher, dear Sangha, good afternoon. On this beautiful day, finally, I've been waiting for this weather all year long. Now I have it for a whole 2 days before it gets too hot or too cold. Okay, teacher will be joining us soon. We're just having some electrical issues outside, so he's hanging out with the electrician. So today we'll be covering, we should be covering the first of the Eightfold Path after we've completed the Four Noble Truths for the past few weeks. But as I was meditating on the first Eightfold Path on right view, I remembered that one of the main functions of practicing and using the Eightfold Path is to eradicate and eliminate the 3 poisons. So I thought I would use today's opportunity to go over the 3 poisons first before we go over the Eightfold Path, since the whole point of the Eightfold Path is to get rid of the 3 poisons, and I thought you should at least know what the 3 poisons are first. So I'm hoping to do this in one setting. As some of you know me, I can talk forever on a small topic, so I'm gonna try to condense and use my time wisely. Of all my management skills, time management is not one of them, unfortunately. It's one of my opportunities. All right, so the 3 poisons, or the Trivesha in Sanskrit, literally means the 3 fires. These are the 3 fires. These are the unwholesome attributes of our mind that we try to eradicate from our minds, from our lives. So the 3 poisons are ignorance, greed, and anger. So ignorance and greed and anger can mean a lot of different things in different settings. But in Buddhism, they're pretty specific, or at least they're targeting specific areas of our consciousness, of our mind. So for ignorance, for example, typically in our everyday world, everyday life, when we hear the word ignorance, sometimes that brings up the connotation of stupidity, right? Which in some translations those translate to stupidity, but it doesn't. Stupidity to me is just kind of a bad word, right? I don't like the word stupidity. So, but in ignorance in Buddhism just means not knowing the truth, or not seeing the truth for what it is, right? And we've discussed this pretty intensely previously when I discussed the topics on impermanence and suffering, so I don't want to go into it too much because we've already covered that pretty extensively before. But essentially, in this case, the ignorance is just, again, not seeing things for what they truly are. Not seeing things as impermanent, seeing things as being permanent, being attached to them, not letting things be as they should be, right? And I always bring up the example of if we're driving down the highway and we see an accident. For most of us, our first thought is to start rubbernecking, so don't do that. But typically that's what most people do, right? Because they want to see the accident. They're just enthused by seeing chaos for some odd reason. But when we see an accident, typically we're trying to assess the situation. We're analyzing what happened. Who caused the accident? Was it the first driver or the second driver? Are they men? Are they women? Are they children? Are they ethnic? Are they old? Are they young? Right? We add all these ingredients to our thought process to figure out how it was caused, who caused it. Right? We're creating a story for this accident that we have no idea or have any knowledge of, right? We're creating a false story for this. So this is part of our ignorance, is creating something that's not real. And also not accepting things that have already happened, right? Or that already are. So if we're so gung-ho on saying, oh, a woman caused this accident, and then we find out a man caused this accident, we're like, no, it can't be a man. Of course that's not a man, it has to be a woman, right? Obviously we don't think like that anymore, hopefully, but we're trying to change what already is, right? And that happens a lot. When people disagree with us, we're always trying to argue back. We're trying to we try to convince them of our point of view, of our perception, of our view of things, right? Because they're arguing with us, and we're thinking that we know what is factual. We know what we know is true and correct, and the one who agrees with us or disagrees with us, our ego says, no. We don't like what they're saying. We have to make sure, we have to convince them that what we think and believe is the one and only way, right? As part of ignorance is not accepting what is or what isn't in some cases, right? So the antidote to our ignorance is wisdom. And we develop wisdom by being open, by allowing things to be as they are, right? So if someone disagrees with you, just leave it at that. Really, letting it go is the solution to most problems, right? Because ultimately, especially if you're arguing with family, and it gets to a point of physical or mental or verbal abuse, then there's chaos in the family, there's chaos in the home, there's a disconnection between everyone where it should be a place of complete harmony, right? So instead of trying to convince someone of your own thought process, of your own ideas, of what you believe is right or wrong, just accept and let it be, right? Because you develop wisdom by acceptance, by allowance, by understanding and being open, right? But not being judgmental. And as you allow that to happen in your life, it'll be easier to start accepting things. It'll be easier to just agree and accept what has already happened instead of trying to change the situation, right? I went way off topic there. But anyway, I'm going to stop there because ignorance is just such a huge topic, and I've already covered this in 2 sessions before. So some of you have already listened and heard that, so I don't want to repeat myself too much. So we'll just go on and move on to the second poison, or fire, mental fire, which is greed. Greed is another big one. Greed is what has created such a chaotic world that we live in, right? Beyond the spiritual sense of this topic, we can think of greed as getting is true in all sense, right? So wanting more, and not being able to accept what you have is enough is what kind of creates our chaotic world, right? Whether it's political or anything else, right? If it's politics, or we just celebrated Thanksgiving because another part of the world wanted more of the world, right? That's why we have Thanksgiving, really. But greed doesn't have to be such a big thing. In Buddhism and in the sutras, greed is also the little things, right? The little things like wanting more of whatever you have. And so I always bring the example of wanting the newest iPhone, right? There's a new iPhone every year, and everybody wants a new iPhone. I'm guilty of getting a new iPhone every year sometimes, but that's part of greed that we're trying to eliminate, right? So your phone's not enough, so you want a bigger phone, better phone. Your house is not big enough, so you want a bigger house. Your car is not fancy enough, you want a fancier car. But ultimately, after all this, right, if the reason we want more of these things is because we believe that having more, obtaining more, getting better things will ultimately create happiness for ourselves, right? We get a new phone and we're happy, sure, for the first week, a month maybe, because it's a new phone. Same thing with a car. After a few months, after a year, it looks like you live in your car because you've unkept it, right? The house, the same thing. If you unkeep it, it's just going to look like a third world country in there. I don't know. But if our house were to burn down, if our car were to get totaled, if our phone were to break apart, is the happiness that you have had when you first obtained it there anymore? No, because these things are impermanent, so they don't cause lasting happiness, and that's part of our ignorance. That's part of the greed that we have. We believe that having more will give us more happiness, right? And so we want more and more and more, and we have this insatiable thirst for just wanting and wanting and wanting. It's sometimes very subtle. It's very small. We don't really think about it, right? When we go shopping, we buy clothes, we buy new shoes, we buy things, right? These are all parts of pieces of our greed, and we don't really think about it because it's like, oh, I can afford it, I can buy it. You know, I need this, I can buy it. I want this, I can buy it. But really, that's just your ego trying to say, hey, you need to be better than other people. You need to look better than other people. You need to have the better technology. You need to have a better car, right? That's all. Ultimately, it's our ego trying to create this big, important person to impress other people, versus allowing us to really see what true happiness is, which is not from those things, right? Anything that is impermanent will never cause you to be ultimately happy, right? And that's true with anything that we have, even relationships, even our partners, our spouses, because they too have to age and get sick and pass away. This is not saying that we can't have nice things in life. This is not saying that we can't have desires to be successful or to want a nice house, to care for our family, right? It's not saying that. It's saying that we should not attach to these things as if they were permanent, as if they would last forever, because they won't, right? And so as we practice in that, and as we meditate on these things, as we become more aware and mindful of the thoughts that go through our mind, through the actions that we do, it'll be easier for us to see and admit, okay, maybe I'm trying to find something to, maybe this new phone won't bring me happiness after all, right? My phone's perfectly fine. It's functional, right? You're able to make calls. You're able to text. You're able to browse the internet, whatever. It's functional. It does everything you already need to do, right? So why need to upgrade unless something's breaking down or doesn't work? But other than that, why upgrade? Why get a nicer car? If it gets you from point A to point B without any troubles, without any issues, who cares about the bumps or the scratches on the outside, right? Unless your house is falling down, why need a bigger house, you know? But anyway, that's the concept behind trying to accept the things that really accept the things that cause our desire to want more. So as we go through things, or as we go through life, as we go through life and we go to the store, or we go to the grocery store, or we go shopping, it's a good thing, it's a good practice to ask yourself, do I need this? Yes or no? If it's yes, why do you need this? Why do you need this? Do you need it because you really do need it? Something is broken, something's not functional, you need this supply, this tool to do your job, to do a project, whatever it is, then great, that's a good excuse to have it. If you are just buying it just to buy it, just to have it, just to show it off, just to say that, hey, look at it, look at what I'm able to afford or buy, and then you just stick it in the closet and never see it again, then what's the point, right? You become a hoarder at this point, right? And I want to see any of you on that hoarding show. It's been years since I watched it, but that was such a good show. We all know what I'm talking about, right? It's such a good show. So to combat greed, we try to practice giving up or letting go again, and generosity. One of my meditation practices that we teach is the giveaway meditation, right? And the giveaway meditation is essentially visualizing yourself at your front door in your home, right? You visualize maybe your parent or sibling or someone close, a family member comes up to you, and you visualize yourself giving them one of your most precious possessions, whether it's jewelry, a book, money, whatever it is, right? Visualize yourself giving it away. And you do this again with someone else that's close, maybe a distant family member. And then you do it again with a close friend, a neighbor, a coworker, right? You go down the line of importance, essentially, until you get to just strangers, right? And you're visualizing yourself giving away things, right? And as you do that, then it's good to be mindful and aware of what the thought process is going, how your mind is thinking. Are you against giving away those possessions? Is it easy for you to give away those possessions? Right? Are you going back and forth? Yes, I should give it to you. Maybe I shouldn't. No, maybe I need it. Maybe I want it. Right? You're going back and forth. You're playing a tug of war. And so you look and listen to your thinking, to your thoughts as you do this. Right? That way you can see just how attached you are to your things. Right? If it's easy to give away, right, even though it's only a visualization practice, but really, at the same time, imagine you truly are giving it away, right? Just say, hey, I'm going to give all this stuff away. Let me just practice in my mind how it's going to feel first, right? You can do it that way. And so as you give it away, and then you start to become less attached to those possessions. So that way, if something were to happen to them, whether they broke, whether they got stolen, whether you do actually give them away, it's easier to let go of that attachment to it, that you have to it. Because ultimately, when you pass away, you can't take any of those possessions with you anyway, right? So why are you hanging on to them so much? They're really not that important. Some of these possessions, maybe you don't even remember having. They're just locked in a closet, locked in a box, locked in storage. Right? I joked with the nun and teacher the other day. I'm saying, we have a lot of old stuff around here. I'm like, I'm enforcing a new rule. If it hasn't been used in 1 year, it gets thrown away. So I'm going all around the temple grounds and just throwing stuff away. So that's what we did this past day of mindfulness. So we filled up every single trash can that we have. We have like 6 trash cans. We never fill them up. And we fill them up because we're getting rid of stuff. So that's a good practice for anyone, I think, right? Spring cleaning is right around the corner, so it's good to go through these things, to really evaluate their importance and how important they really are. What are they doing for you? Are they making your life better? Right? Is it making other people's lives better? Right? And you can ask these questions. And so if they're not, if they're just sitting there, what are you doing? What is it doing? Sell it, give it away, make use of it. Right? I come across very harsh. I'm so sorry. But that's how it's life. Life is harsh. I'm just giving it to you without sugarcoating it, I guess. And the last poison is anger. Anger. We all go through anger. Anger is this little best friend that we can never unfriend or never seem to unfriend from, right? But anger as a part of the 3 poisons is mostly about ill will or aversion. So it's about avoiding things that we don't like, pushing them away, and pushing people or things or situations that we don't like away, and only allowing or inviting the things that we do like, right? We do this all the time, right? We avoid people. If you're at a grocery store and you see a neighbor that you don't like or a friend that you don't like, or like, you go the other way, right? Or you leave altogether. Or when you go to work, you're avoiding specific coworkers, you're avoiding specific people, maybe you're avoiding specific types of duties, job duties you have to do. So we're always avoiding doing things that we don't want, or avoiding people that we don't like, instead of just accepting that they're there and that job does have to be done, whether you like it or not, right? So instead of avoiding the task and avoiding the person, just let it be, let it happen, accept it, it's there, it's not going anywhere, and you can move on. It's easier, right? Because if you just hold on to things, especially anger, if we're just holding on to anger, right, we create a pretty hard resentment in our minds, right? And this resentment can last for our entire lives, almost, right? I can keep a grudge like no one other. I don't have any more grudges. I let it all loose. Right? When I shaved my hair, I shaved my whole past. Everything's gone. But people who hold on to grudges will not allow certain things to happen in their life, right? I know people who will avoid going to a whole wedding because of one person. True story. It was at my wedding, thank God. But people would avoid going to a whole wedding, going to a party, going to a work event, or whatever it may be, right? But when we hold on to anger, right, and there's a Buddhist quote that holding on to anger is like holding on to a hot coal. You're only hurting yourself, right? Because when you hold on to anger, if I may again use the road rage example, because we all know I love road rage. But assuming you're driving to work in the morning and someone cuts you off, right? Habitually, we become angry, or we start cursing out to the person, or we flip them off, we call them names, whatever it may be, right? We ruin our whole drive because we allowed someone else to cause us anger. So now we hold on to this anger, we take this anger to work, right? Someone says hello, good morning to you, and you're like, don't talk to me, I'm not in the mood. I haven't had my 5th cup of coffee yet, or something, I don't know, right? And so now you've caused someone else who was happy and in a good mood, now you've caused them to be in a bad mood and unhappy. And then they take that mood and they transfer it to other people, right? So it becomes this whole domino effect of anger because you allowed someone else's disturbance to cause disturbance in yourself, right? So if someone cuts you off, instead of being angry and wondering why they cut you off, who do they think they are, how dare they, I'm more important, my time's more precious than theirs. Instead of going through these types of thoughts, just say, okay, they cut me off. Maybe someone's pregnant in the back seat, maybe someone's bleeding out to death. Something could be happening that caused them to cut you off. You don't know, right? But it goes back to us creating a whole story to make ourselves feel better as to why they cut us off and to justify why we're cursing them out. We're creating a mental story here, and it's a false story, right? And because it's a false story, now we're angry. We're making ourselves angry because we're making up a story that we believe is true, and now we're angry about it. And we can potentially, again, take it to work and cause anger for other people. So instead of doing that, if someone cuts you off, just practice compassion, right? That's the antidote to anger and aversion is compassion, is loving kindness. So one of our meditation practices is called metta meditation, which is loving kindness meditation. This is essentially wishing goodwill for other people, right? We just practiced this not too long ago. So as you sit in meditation, practice meditation, you start with yourself first. May I be healthy. May I be free from suffering. May my mind be clear, right? And you do the same for other people. May my mother be healthy. May my mother have a clear mind. May my mother be free from suffering. May my father be healthy. May my father be clear of mind. May my father be free of suffering. May my grandmother, may my sister, my brother, my friend, my neighbor, my coworker, the stranger across the street, the homeless person in the corner, the person who cut me off, right? Those are the most important, are the people who we think are our enemies, right? So if we're able to provide compassion to them, and we're able to practice that when they cut us off, just bring back that mantra. May you be healthy. May you be safe. May you be free from suffering. May your mind be at ease, right? That way, instead of, how dare you? Who do you think you are? I'm more important. F this, F that, right? You're causing such chaos in your mind. Just replace that with, may you be happy, may you be safe, may you be healthy, may you be free from suffering, may your mind be at ease, right? So if you're angry, what benefits do you gain from that? What benefits do you get from any of these poisons? If you're ignorant about the world, if you're ignorant about how things are, and you're trying to change them, if you're ignorant about, if you're obsessed with wanting more, getting better, getting bigger, and hang on to anger and spreading anger, what are the benefits to any of these poisons? There are no benefits. They're degrading your own mind, they're degrading your lifestyle, your well-being, because if you're unable to accept things as they are, if you're unable to accept that bigger, better things will cause you happiness, if you're unable to accept that anger is literally burning our mind, then what are you going to do in life? What is going to cause you happiness? What is going to cause you to see things as they are? What is going to cause you to be mentally happy? Okay. I'm checking the time. Again, time management. So take this practice when you leave, or in anything you do in life, right? You can always ask yourself, is this how it is? If a situation were to happen in life, right? Is what I'm thinking correct? Is what I'm thinking beneficial? Is what I'm thinking coming from a place of compassion, or anger, or hate, etc., right? Because if something is true, right, in Buddhism there's a kind of motto, I suppose, that if a situation or if anything that arises does not benefit you and others, then it's not a wholesome action, right? A wholesome action is a wholesome action. It's beneficial because it benefits, it's good for you or other people. If it does not cause a positive impact to yourself, to others, then it's an unwholesome action. Right? The three poisons are also called the three unwholesome attributes, or the three fires, or the three poisons, however you want to look at it. And as I was reading on the first of the Eightfold Path, because this is what I was planning to do today, I was reading the Samadhi Sutra, which is the sutra on right view, which is the first of the Eightfold Path, where Shariputra, one of the Buddha's main disciples, discusses the three poisons and how and how a good disciple, or in the sutra, how a good monk is able to decipher what is wholesome and what is unwholesome by applying the three poisons to the situation, right? Is there ignorance in there? Is there greed in there? Is there anger in there? If any of these three are in the situation, then it's an unwholesome situation, right? And so we need to do the opposite, right? We need to practice instead generosity, compassion, and wisdom. It's not easy. It's not difficult. We're just lazy. Because we know life as it is, right? We have a routine in life. We have a routine to tackle certain situations, whether it's a driver cutting us off, whether it's a coworker pissing us off, or whatever it is, right? We have a habitual routine of how to deal with those things. And some of those are maybe good, maybe beneficial, but in most cases they're not, right? Because we don't typically think before we say things or do things, right? I always say everything always starts in our mind, always starts as a thought, right? So as you're thinking of something, that is your first opportunity to analyze it. Is this good or is this bad? What's this going to result in, right? If you're unable to stop that thinking and it turns into speech, and it's bad speech or good speech, that's your second opportunity to say, is this speech wholesome or unwholesome? If you're unable to stop it there, then it turns into action. That's your third opportunity to evaluate, is this wholesome or is this unwholesome? So you have 3 points in your opportunity here to stop yourself from doing something that's unwholesome or contributing to something that is wholesome. But we have to be mindful of these things. We have to practice awareness, right? So as the saying goes, think before you speak is very much true, right? Otherwise you're going to say or do something that you later regret. And once you've said it or done it, there's no taking it back. So instead of hanging on to that regret, stop yourself. Allow yourself to be mindful of what's happening in our mind. That's where all the control is. Okay, I'm going to stop there. Any questions, concerns, emotional outbursts? I don't want to hear. Not today. Not today. Yes, sir. Very true. And before I became a monk, probably the last 5 years before becoming a monk, I became very minimalistic in life, right? Even though I owned a house and a couple of cars, and I went on a lot of vacations, but my materialistic life was I minimalized it. So to me, I live in a house that's very minimalist, it's very basic, there's nothing fancy, whatever. But then once I was getting ready the year before I was getting ready to ordain, I had a couple of garage sales, yard sales, just to get rid of stuff before I gave everything else away. And I realized just how much my minimalistic life was not very minimalistic after all. I was like, where does all this crap come from? Right? You stash things in boxes or in storage, right? You have little things on the shelves and here and there, but they all add up, right? And so it took a whole yard sale, like 2 or 3 of them, unfortunately, to recognize just all the stuff that we've accumulated that you really don't need or just don't have any has no useful function anymore, right? But we have it because at the time we're like, oh, I gotta have it. I need it. For some reason, I don't know why, but I need it, right? So now, even though as a monk, we still have to buy stuff for the temple. And because it was Black Friday recently, I'm on Amazon, I'm seeing things, I'm like, oh, we could use this at the temple, right? I'm like, no. Do we need it? Yes or no? No, you don't need it. Okay, fine, let's go to the next one, right? And I see all these things. I'm like, oh, we could use this for the sound system. We can use this for the yard or whatever. But it's a good practice. Do you need it? Yes or no? No? Great. Yes? Why do you need it? Right? And just use that formula. And hopefully it'll help you as much as that's helped me. Okay. Well, if there's no questions, then I also want to remind everyone that next Sunday, we are celebrating our Venerable Teacher's continuation birthday day. So it'll be a semi-formal ceremony, so it'll be pretty nice if you're able to join us for that. It'll be same time at 12:30. And then afterward, we can sit down for some cake and non-alcoholic wine. What's it called? Sparkling? What's it called? Like apple cider, right? No, apple cider. What am I thinking of? You know what I'm talking about, right? Okay. So that'll be next Sunday, 12:30. Okay. Well, if there's no questions, then we will transfer the merit and go into chanting. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha, Namo Shakyamuni Buddha, Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. For any positive karmic action we've accumulated here today, we wish to transfer the merit to all sentient beings and wish them full alignment.
Go to general service. Inviting the bell. Bodhi spirit enlightened, perfect oneness. I set my heart along with the sound of the bell. May the hearers awaken from forgetfulness and transcend all anxiety and sorrow. Listen, listen, this wonderful sound to my true home. Incense offering. In gratitude we offer this incense to all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas throughout space and time. May it be fragrant as earth. But he's flowing. Om is to the eternally abiding Buddha, the supreme Dharma, and Savior of each Sangha, throughout the Dharma realm and the realm of empty space and 3 periods of time. Om is to the fundamental teacher, Shakyamuni Buddha, Maitreya, honor, future Buddha, to speak great Buddha, Bodhisattva, and the glorious mountain assembly of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Om is to Amitabha Buddha in the land of Avalokiteshvara, great compassion, Bodhisattva, great strength, Bodhisattva, first portrait now, Bodhisattva, and the assembly of great pure Sila, Bodhisattva. Each again. Amen. Awakening and loving kindness and joy, Person